Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you on a Monday morning. As always, I've got Combo with me, as always, as well, and we have a lot to talk about for sure. Combo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You're a little loud. Let me turn you down a little bit. What is happening? You have a good weekend?
It was a great weekend. Played some basketball yesterday. Watched that Lakers Indiana Pacers mid-season tournament championship game. Yeah, everything was good. That was interesting. First one ever.
Yeah. What did you think about how they were able to stop the number one offense in the league?
Well, maybe it's not really the number one offense in NBA history, like the numbers tell us, even though I love their team and I love what Rick Carlisle is doing, embracing the modern NBA. I've been high on Halliburton since, he was in the draft, very high on him. But I mean, like best offense in NBA history, I think we talked about that a little bit. We might have to taper that back a little bit. And their interior defense isn't good, and that's never a good match for the Lakers team, as we've seen in the bubble when they matched up with the Heat. Like when they have that type of advantage, and Bam is great, but when AD in the bubble was doing was kind of like what he was doing in this game. But actually, his defense might have been even better now, which is kind of crazy to think about. I mean, the guy had 41 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists. Wow.
Yeah, he was great. He was great. LeBron gets the MVP of the whole thing, which he deserved. But yeah, he was a bit of a monster there. The other thing was, I mean, they did a nice job jamming Halliburton in the backcourt, trying to slow them down because they do so well in transition. That seemed to help. But I thought that this is interesting. The Pacers probably shrunk a little bit under the pressure. I think they got a number of good looks from behind the line that they would have probably would have liked to have knocked down. Let's see. They shot right. So the Pacers ended up shooting from the line 24.4% on 10 for 41 from the three, versus the Lakers actually only made 2. So it's one of those rare instances where, even making 8 more threes than the other team, you don't lose. I'll look it up in a minute when I get a chance. I didn't realize that disparity was so high. And they got beat pretty soundly. So if you want to look at some other ideas of what happened there, I mean, listen, the Pacers only turned the ball over 9 times, and the Lakers turned it over 18. So I got to look. I bet you there's probably more to look at there, but at the very least, it felt like there's a bit of a shrinkage under the pressure, which, by the way, might end up being good for the Pacers because it's hard to get that kind of playoff atmosphere for a youngest team in the league before you get to the playoffs. And now they've kind of gotten it.
Yeah, I mean, they hung around for a while, so you never really knew throughout the course of that game if maybe the Pacers could come on with a huge offensive streak where they just hit a whole bunch of threes, because it felt like the Lakers were winning by a lot more that whole game. And when you say shrink under pressure, I don't think it's that they mentally shrunk. It's that the length of the Lakers, the physicality of the Lakers was really bothering them, and everything wasn't as effortless as it was in prior games in the tournament.
Okay, fair enough. I kind of want to go through this and look at just all the threes. Maybe I can kind of even do that while we're talking. So I kind of just get my mind's eye on it. But
the Lakers didn't hit one the whole game until like the end or the second half.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it really is remarkable. I want to look that up for sure. But let me just see if I can do this. Where are we? Threes missed. Let's do this. Let me grab it. Wow, 31 of them, huh? All right. So anyway, now, let's get to the even more important announcement we have, because if you weren't with us in the last live show, we discussed it a little bit, but let's talk about it right now really briefly, where I am going down to Buenos Aires at the end of this month to coach in the Maccabi games, Pan Am games, the 45 and over team. I'm kind of doing a nice thing for them to help them because they lost their coach, and I wanted to do a nice thing for them. But you know what? We also lost some players, and so Combo can be one of those guys. He played pro. He could play on the team. By the way, Combo, I have another guy who I know who's really good as a big man down here who might want to go as well. But we have to be able to raise enough money to cover the costs because they're astronomical to fly down there. All we need to do is cover the cost to fly down there. So by the way, the other thing that benefits you is we created a GoFundMe account to do this, to try and raise some money to get down there. But where you guys out there can benefit is that I will be down there filming a whole bunch of stuff, not just on what I'm doing coaching. I'm going to get out into the real world in Buenos Aires and start to interview people who are in the basketball community. I want to do a whole series on how, other countries develop their players. And so I think it'll be a fantastic series. I'm planning to go to the Philippines, Greece, Serbia, Australia, So I'm going to do a lot of these. This is going to be the first one, the pilot. And if you guys could help us, certainly getting Combo down there, and Combo will definitely be dropping a 30 minimum, right, Combo?
Oh yeah,
and 10 dimes.
Yeah. It depends on if the others could convert.
Yeah, that's true. Because the other countries are pretty good. Israel's pretty good, and Argentina apparently is pretty good. Like they're going to probably beat everybody by a lot. So you want to have a good showing by the U.S. And it would really help if we can get a couple of these guys to go. It help me coach as well. So if you guys can do that, the link is in the description. I'm going to drop it in the comments real quick right here too, so you can have it. But if you can, anything you can spare would be even helpful. Like even if you wanted to do, maybe we'll just do, we'll grab comments if you want to do that in lieu of a super chat today. That would really help just to get us going. But it's a bit of money, and I would love to be able to get Combo there and my buddy Darren to get there as well. But anyhow, Martin, great to see you. Thank you out there. What's up, Bangs? What's up, Ricardo? Ricardo wants to know if I'm going to give LeBron the credit he deserves finally, as if I haven't given LeBron the credit he deserves, which I think is nonsense. We can maybe get into that discussion too about like when you try and do sort of unbiased, reasonable analysis of superstars. The hater tag comes out. It's really kind of it makes sense. I'm used to it, but it makes me feel that much better.
I think people try and pencil you in as a person. That's how they could kind of figure you out. They never like to think of somebody as like nuanced, because then it's harder to understand that person.
That's a great way to put it. Because like, would a hater ever do videos that would, be completely positive and praising LeBron? Like, I don't think you can. That kind of violates the hater rule, right? Where you can't ever be positive. And I feel like people will even do that on Twitter sometimes when I'll do a great play by him. And they're like, wait, you can't do that. You're a hater. I'm like, well, maybe I'm not a hater. Maybe I actually really like the way LeBron plays, which I do.
And it's funny because, not only you, but anybody else, there could be 10 people that look at him as a LeBron hater. And then there could be another 10 people that think you feel like LeBron does no wrong, even though you always had the same opinion. You're just giving different opinions about different facets of his game or whatever it may be.
I agree. I mean, even the one where I posted on Twitter where he called timeout, right? And again, I almost wish it wasn't the Lakers who were involved in this play, because I don't care who was involved in the play. The bottom line is, did that timeout get called in time for when Austin Reeves had the ball, quote unquote, pinned to his left shin? It still kind of makes me roll my eyes. But it has nothing to do with LeBron. It just has rather to do with like, did he get the timeout called or not, right? And that was like leading to accusations against me. I was like, what is going on here? That said, it was an interesting take where people were like, they were looking at the notion of having all small market teams in this tournament semifinals. And, but I don't think the refs had that in mind anyway. But, I do like, hey, I like myself a good conspiracy like anybody else. So that was interesting. But either way, it had nothing to do with LeBron. What was the other one that came out the other day? That the same idea. Oh yeah, it was the one where the OKC and Golden State. So I happened to notice. I finally watched the end of that game. Did you happen to notice that tweet that went out?
No, tell me more.
So the Warriors were up by 3 with 8.6 seconds to go. They took the foul to stop it at that moment. They didn't have enough fouls, so they were going to put them on the lines. They couldn't, so they had to inbound it. So the OKC takes. You watch the ref, and he counts 5 seconds, and then the guy throws it in. I saw it from my phone. It's like that wasn't right. It was late. I was just watching on my phone in bed in the morning, and they missed it. So that would cost them the game basically, because it should be a turnover, and then the Warriors get the ball back. They have to foul. Now they're up by 4 or 5, and then the game's over. Like that really, there's an instance where so what happened after that though was the dumbest play you'd ever see by Draymond Green. They wanted to foul up 3, right? But Draymond is far enough away from Holmgren that he ends up fouling him on the 3-point shot, gives him 3 free throws, and they tie the game. So, okay, let's blame Draymond for that too, and they lose in overtime. But it never should have gotten there. The ball should never have been inbounded. The game was over. But like, I had people accusing me of being some sort of like, Warriors thing, where I'm like, I don't care what a team is. It's just, here's what we saw. And then on top of that, the last 2-minute report lists that play as a mistake. It says it was a 5-second violation. They did not inbound it in time. But the problem is there's a typo, and it says CNC. That stands for correct no call, when it's supposed to be INC, incorrect no call. And so I think it's just a typo. It went a little viral to let them know, and then they actually removed the whole play itself just recently. I tagged the wrong account on Twitter. I did the NBA official whatever account instead of the other NBA official account. So I think that they finally saw it and they took it down. I hope they're going to put it back up and just have it be correct. But either way, that the point of that was like, it's not that's nothing to do with the Warriors. I don't care who wins, who loses. It just happened to be, it happened to be them. But, and I do love myself a juicy mistake like that, where they blew it and they were able to call it. We get some proof. How about this one? That TJ McConnell travel that was going around. You saw that one, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was a travel.
It wasn't a travel. They called it a travel. Everyone on Twitter, as you're trying to help them understand why it wasn't a travel, which was freaking out. The NBA came out and said, yes, it was a travel. I mean, it was not a travel. We blew it. It should not have been a call. They still won't acknowledge it. They won't accept it, or they go away. So anyway, I like those. So those are always good teaching points, right? I mean, I kind of like them, but then I kind of don't, because half the people still won't accept it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what people do. Kings fans were mad at me about saying Halliburton was better than Fox. So everybody has their thing,
Yeah. And then the SGA thing was coming out. We talked about that last time. Who's better there? And I'm not going to argue that SGA is worse than Halliburton, or Halliburton is better than SGA. I think the only argument would be like, they don't play the same position.
Who plays the same position these days?
Right. Is everybody that individual?
Because everybody, yeah. I mean, it's more about meshing skill sets and talents than slotting in positions. So it's very hard to compare players in terms of position these days.
Well, what separates them from me is the passing, and it's not that that SGA is not a good passer. It's just not really what his role is. So as a result, Halliburton doubles him up on assists per game. But it's because of the way they're just different. More of a it's not a pass first point guard. Synergy has different names for them now. I got to look them up, but they're just different positions.
Yeah, I mean, he leverages the threat of the pass. Halliburton does. That's not really SGA's game.
Exactly. And by the way, if SGA did a little bit more, then he would be more effective. And I think that's what we said last time, was that to guard Halliburton, there's an extra level of difficulty because he might throw that pass, and you have to sort of adjust for that as well. And you're never really sure, or it's a little bit more, it's more on your mind versus SGA, where a lot of the time he's just going to shoot it.
It's just tendencies, like how Halliburton leverages the threat of the pass. SGA got so much in the lane with pull-ups and floaters and deceleration and footwork. Not saying Tyrese doesn't have that, but the focal point of how they play basketball is just a little bit different. It doesn't even necessarily mean one is better, one is worse. It's just they're just different players.
That is true. But you know what? This is sports. We have to compare, don't we?
That is true.
We have to.
Is true. Isn't comparison the thief of joy?
What's that?
Isn't comparison the thief of joy?
Maybe. It's funny. I was looking at a comment was made about that SGA's made the playoffs, and that's why he's better. And Halliburton hasn't done it yet. We got to see that.
That doesn't necessarily mean that. It's funny when you say that, because I was thinking about this the other day. I feel like the best player in the league is not often widely recognized as the best player in the league till like 3 years later. Like, it was like that with Michael Jordan. Just because he didn't win a championship doesn't mean he wasn't the best player in the league for those 3 or 4 years going up towards the time he won the title. Jokic been the best player in the league for 3-4 years now, I believe. Mm-hmm. And, it's like we don't recognize it because we put so much stock into team success. Obviously, there should be some stock into it, but it's not the end-all, be-all when you're comparing individual players.
Okay, that is a great point. Do you guys even see that? I'll leave it up a little bit longer without comment. Now, yes, all of that is true. But even still, like, SGA really hasn't. He played with the Clippers 1 year, and he played a couple of years ago with OKC in the playoffs. But not great. So, but the question is, like, he got his team to the playoffs, and that's what makes him better versus how he performed in the playoffs. It's a lot of different things, a lot of nuances. At some point when you get that good, it really is hard to figure out, how you're supposed to rate this. But someone asks about Halliburton versus Trae Young. Now that's an interesting take as well, because speaking of which, Trae Young had propelled his team all the way to the conference finals in 1 year, so that says something in volumes. But I do feel like we know that Halliburton is much more efficient, right? His numbers are much more efficient than Trae. And I think he got more assists too. So, man, I don't know. Is he better than Trae Young?
Yes, Tyrese Halliburton's better than Trae
Does he
Young.
have to just kind of finish up the rest of the
And
season?
and let me say this. I mean, Trae Young is super underappreciated. What he's able to do with his size. At
Yeah.
his size, like he could find passes kind of like a Tyrese and a Luka, but he's like 6 feet, right? And he
Yeah.
could put up numbers at that size. And he's not an eye-popping athlete. I mean, he's quick as anything, but he's not
Yeah.
an eye-popping athlete. Like he is super underappreciated. But the difference between him and Tyrese is Tyrese has, I feel like, a better effect on the team. Like in making, like assists don't always equate to making it, to have that ability to make everybody around you better. Probably some of that is off the court stuff. Not saying anything wrong with Trae, but Tyrese seems to have an effect of making everybody happier, right? Being more of a leader. So I believe that to be the case with Ty. And also he's more efficient, as you said. Like he's just a better shooter.
You're saying that Halliburton makes his teammates happier?
I think so.
Okay, interesting.
I think LeBron has that effect. I think Jokic has that effect, even though it seems at times he's not the biggest lover of basketball. I think there's certain guys that are just the people around them become very happy playing with them.
I mean, listen, who wouldn't be? I'm going to choose. Right. All right, we're going to do a head-to-head comparison right now of Trae Young and Halliburton. Let me see.
I mean, Halliburton's efficiency also blows Trae's out the water, right?
Yeah. So I wonder if I can do the share screen just so we can see this better, but it will not look great. Let me just do this. Let's try this. So regular season. Oh no, that's the versus. I want to just see their. Gosh darn, they changed this. I don't want versus finder. I just want their head to head. No, I don't want head to head. I want just each individual next to each other. God damn it. Maybe it's this. Hang on for 1 second. All right, because I also got to look up the what happens, the record of teams when they score 8 or more threes. It's not that either. I can't find it. Anyway, it is. Trae Young is shooting. He's scoring 27 a game, but he's only shooting 35% from three and 41% from the field overall. So his 2-point percentage is 458 versus Halliburton, which is going to be, gosh darn it all, is much higher. Well, we know he's much higher already from three. Halliburton is shooting for this year 44% and a high volume number off the dribble threes. And his field goal, his 2-point percentage is 61%. He's an insane finishing around the basket. So that's not even close. And then plus they factor in the assists per game, which is Trae's at 10.6, which is absolutely fantastic. But Halliburton's at 12.1, and he's just setting guys up left and right. So yeah, you probably have to say. Well, at the very least, you have to say that Halliburton's having a much better year than Trae Young.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's the best player on a team that just went to the finals in the midseason tournament and looks like they're trending upwards. While the Hawks, he did get there one year, but there has been a lot of ups and downs, while the Pacers seem like they are on a steady trajectory upwards. For sure.
All right, let me I'm looking up right now the let's do either playoffs or regular season over the last 3 years. We're going to do net oh no, why does it do with this? I have the wrong. Okay, final single games. I hate when StatHead does this to me, and I have to choose the right one to find it. I don't know which one it is. Anyway, I'll look at it when you're talking. So I'm on whatever. But let's talk a little bit about. Well, we already talked about going to Buenos Aires. If you just joined us, so we have a bit of a surge here with new people. If you look at in the description, there's a link to a GoFundMe. We're trying to get down to Buenos Aires. I'm coaching the Maccabi team in the Pan American Games. It'll be really great content. I'm going to film a ton more there. But Combo wants to play in the team. I got another guy who wants to play in the team. The damn planes are so expensive. We need the money to be able to get them down there where they can't go. So please help us do that. Their link is down there. Anything you might want to be able to spare, we really, really appreciate it. And you'll benefit because we'll get a lot more. By the way, imagine me and Combo together walking around town filming stuff about basketball.
That's a duo right there.
Yeah. That'd be rough. That'd be tough, is what I want to say. That'd be, and I'm sure there'll be some Argentinians. If you are in Argentina, let me know, because I'm trying to connect with as many basketball people down there as possible. So if you're out there right now in Buenos Aires, please email me, coachnick@bballbreakdown.com, and let me know, and we can set something up and come by. Anything else here? Lakers. So we talked about the Lakers. Now, the Lakers' path was a little bit easier. And so I know that there was some even people saying, oh, they rigged it so they could be easy for them to get to the finals. But they did have to play the Suns and beat them. And they had to play the Pelicans, who have been playing pretty well this year. So it wasn't a complete loss, but, not compared to what the Pacers had to get to.
So what do you think about the whole conversation about Zion right now?
I just started seeing it. I got to get some eyeballs on his actual play because let me just look real quick. If you look at overall right now, his numbers, I think, they are down. I was thinking earlier, I was looking at the season and the numbers seem to be okay. But, he had traditionally averaged, 27, 26 the last couple of years before in limited sample size before he was injured. He's down to 22 points a game, but he's playing less minutes. The field goal percentage is down to 57 versus over 60%, which 57% is amazing, from your field goal percentage. So, I guess what are the whispers? That he's heavier, he's not moving as well?
Yeah, that he's out of shape and that
Yeah.
he's not taking his nutrition and lifestyle of being a healthy human being maybe as seriously as he should.
What do you think? What are your eyeballs telling you?
Yeah, I mean, he looks a little bit heavier than I've seen him in the past. And there's reports saying that he's not listening to those trying to get him to maybe eat in a better way.
Right. It really is. It's amazing to me that a guy like who's that young, who's burning so many calories anyway, just by playing and what they're doing, is able to eat more than that and really keep that going. I mean, but I think it's a genetic thing. Probably he had that issue as even a younger kid. So
I feel like in the NBA you could get out of shape, especially if your minutes are down in regular season games, because sometimes practices aren't really practices.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're not running a lot in those practices, and then if you have one, you might not even have them.
Right.
So it's almost like great. Well, then maybe they should have some more practices and have them be running more and do that, torture everybody else in the name of Zion getting into shape. But
well, there are usually those two-way guys and guys who aren't playing a lot. If they're smart, they're working whenever they can, right? To keep their cardio up, to prove their skill, right? And Zion should definitely be with those guys working. I mean, that should be a given. I mean, he's still young.
Yeah.
He should be doing all the extra work, but it seems like he's not. And, from what people are saying, that he's not taking his health and lifestyle seriously enough from a professional level.
Yeah. Part of that makes me feel like, one of the reasons why people overeat is because they're depressed. And part of me wonders if there's some underlying issue there that could be addressed. It's not just like, you got to do that. Of course, why wouldn't you? You're a professional athlete. Yada, yada. It could very well be an underlying issue there that is not being addressed. And it could be a cultural thing where professional athletes, well, they can't reach out and get help like that when they can.
Why not? Why wouldn't they be able to get help?
Because they don't want to appear weak. They don't want to see all that, and then, and depending on where you're from in the country too, it could very well be a thing where it's like, oh, yeah, I don't go see a shrink, like all that.
It could just be a discipline thing too.
Could be all those things. So, but this has gone on long enough where, I don't know. Discipline to me, I mean, it is a discipline thing, right? You have to be disciplined to do that. He's not doing it. He's not disciplined. But to me, this is going on long enough where it's like, there might be some underlying factors here that are not being addressed that would really help. And then, once we get through that, it wouldn't be an issue anymore. But it's too bad because, again, he could be an MVP. He could be whatever he wants to be on the floor. He could be the best player in the NBA. I
mean, we saw this with Sean Kemp, Oliver Miller. We've seen this before, right? So
yeah, did Jared Dudley count? I don't know. He was never like heavy, but he can never.
I don't think so. I don't know why I don't count him in that. I think that was just his body type. I guess his body type.
But I don't know. I feel like to make it a professional athlete, you need to have some definition, and
Luka don't have. I don't think you need definition to be a good basketball player. I think everybody.
Luka does not have definition in his arms.
Yeah, not really.
Like even someone like Niang doesn't really, doesn't have that definition. Jared Dudley and George Niang are in that same body type. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you know what? More power to them. They've gotten to the NBA. They're playing as professional athletes, and they're making it work. Anyhow, what else? What else can we talk about as we got? Let's see here. You had a hard out in another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not to have games yesterday.
It was weird. There's been a few days like that, right? With this mid-season sort of it.
So maybe if that's the result of having the in-season tournament, then maybe that's great. Like have a couple of days where everyone can just be down and rest and relax.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, do the listeners have any questions?
Oh, well, Ricardo wants me to do he's the best player ever as a 38-year-old. Facts. I'm just asking Coach to acknowledge how great LeBron is. He is great. He's number 1A or 1B, excuse me, in my book. It's 1B. Now he wants me to do a breakdown.
Let me ask you, Coach Nick, has there ever been a basketball player? Has there ever been a better basketball player than LeBron?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
One player.
I think there's one player that you could say had a greater career and a greater peak.
Okay. I mean, I guess if you want to factor that in, because there's no question he's playing a lot better at 38 than Michael Jordan played at 38.
I'm just talking about like complete basketball player. I don't think there's been anybody really better.
Well, okay, but then you kind of get into, if you want to talk about complete, are we talking about skills?
Everything.
Well, Michael Jordan had better skills than LeBron did.
He wasn't a better passer. That's a skill.
Okay.
He wasn't a better rebounder. That's a skill.
Michael was a pretty good rebounder for his size.
No, look, I'm never going to say.
I don't know if I would say.
I'm never going to say he wasn't a good rebounder. I'm just saying there are some skills that LeBron are better than Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Michael was a better defender. He's better. I would say he's better ball handler, and also just certainly better post player.
They're both good in the post, but I see what you're saying. Like in terms of footwork, Mike was better. Yeah,
yeah, he was more skilled in the post without.
They were different. I mean, LeBron. I mean, Mike had quicker first step. LeBron could play bully ball a little bit more. He was a little bigger and a little bit stronger.
Well, I mean, that's the problem. That's just because he was, his body type. Like Michael can't control that. He's 6'6". What do you want him to do? But
that's what made Shaq one of the greatest centers. Yeah. There was nothing people could do.
I would say Michael's dominance was more profound than LeBron's ever had.
Here, I'll tell you this. Like, there's two ways to look at this. I don't think there was ever a basketball player better than LeBron, but I would also say that the gap between Mike and the second best player was a lot larger than LeBron and the second best player now, when LeBron was in his prime.
I don't care. I don't care enough to like try and prove you wrong, because that it's not like an uncredible argument that you're making. You know what I mean? But I had the luck. I was lucky enough to be able to see both these guys live in their primes. And
but I wasn't even saying who I feel was greater. I was just saying like the two different, like how it's so close, because I think the gap between Mike and the second best player was a lot larger than LeBron and the second best player. But I also think the league got better.
I guess like the third player is going to be who, like Kareem or like who, like Matt? Who are we talking about? I mean, that's pretty good too. All those guys. I don't know how much.
I mean, that's when Michael was a little bit younger, but I mean, the gap. Who was the second best player when Mike was in the league?
Oh, you're talking about that? I thought you were talking about all time.
Yeah. No. I'm saying like Katie and Steph were closer to LeBron than anybody that it was close to Mike.
I mean,
the gap was larger.
In Mike's peak, wow, that's a good question. Who was the second best player, like in '88?
Probably Malone and all of them in the '90s, right?
In the '90s, it was probably like Malone or Barkley or whatever. But you had David Robinson. You had just ridiculous players. Gosh, Bird even earlier. Bird and Magic. I don't know. The bottom line is, it's like, I got to see both of them, and I just feel like the dominance, you have to split hairs. I mean, there's no question you have to split hairs at some point to figure out some way to separate them, because it is that close.
So you don't think it's ridiculous when somebody says LeBron is the greatest?
No, I don't think it's ridiculous. No.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you if you are, that I would not be. Yeah, that's not ridiculous. But we have a super chat. Let's go to that one. So Bron, thank you so much, Bron. Appreciate it. And don't forget, like, super chats are awesome today, but like for the next couple of weeks, we're really trying to drive anybody who wants to help us out with the GoFundMe in the description and in the comments above. But Bron, thank you so much. Thoughts on the Warriors' struggles to run Kerr's offense while developing the younger players? Is this a Kerr issue, aging stars front office? So I was going through the OKC game, and I actually just started watching the last like 6 minutes because it was an overtime. Just wanted to get to see what was going on at the end. And Jonathan Kuminga was killing the Warriors the way he was playing. It's mistakes, it's terrible mistakes that don't go in the box score. But then you look up and he scored like 25 points in that game or something like that and shot really well. So I was like, oh, okay. He had a good game, but down the stretch, he's still doing really, really bad mistakes. And so does that like go away because Chris Paul comes back and Gary Payton comes back and he won't get those minutes then? But then again, now he's not going to get those minutes to develop. Moses Moody too, all those guys. So I think that the pressure right now on the Warriors is to win because of Steph Curry's age and Clay and those guys. And so they can't, they're stuck where they really can't afford to let these guys learn and end up having losses. Now, that said, they shouldn't have had the loss because there should have been a 5-second call and whatever. But and then there's the other one when Steph Curry throws the ball away. And then Draymond Green throws the ball away back to back, and they had another game. So they probably had several games like that this year already. They're 10 and 12, where they would have been 13 and 9. Is that what it would be? And then maybe people aren't even so concerned, right? But I'm doing the video. That's next. The video is Warriors next, and I started pulling apart some numbers here. You want to hear some interesting stats?
Yep.
All right. So they're 4th in most fouls per 100 possessions. So Coach Kerr came out and was talking about fouling and turnovers, right? The interesting thing about that, so the fouling, they're 4th in most fouls per 100 possessions, which is a lot. They're fouling a lot. They're also 5th in most turnovers per 100 possessions. So, okay, that makes sense. That said, when you look at the win-loss splits of the turnovers, just overall, in their wins, it's let me get it. I wrote it down over here. That's interesting. In the wins per 100 possessions, they turn it over 15.1 times per game. And in the losses, it's only 16.1. So that's not a significant difference to me between wins and losses overall with turnovers, right? 15 versus 16. Now, I don't know how they're winning, turning the ball over 15 times in the game, right? That seems insane.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But there is something to think about there really quickly. All turnovers are not the same. There are live ball turnovers where the other team can run down and score on you. And there are other ones where maybe you get a stop and it's not a big deal. You get the ball back and we're back into it. So if you look at it that way, as live ball turnovers per 100 possessions, in their wins, they're turning it over 7.3 times per 100 in their wins. And they're turning it over live ball 8.6. That's pretty significant because some of these losses are narrow. So suddenly now you're realizing, oh, it's the kind of turnovers that they're committing that are an issue there. And then you add that to the fouls. So that's interesting. And then I'm looking at their 3-point stuff because a lot of times that will overcome all those issues, right? If you shoot a lot better than the other team, then the turnovers don't bother you so much. Getting offensive rebounded is not so bad. Fouling might not be so bad, but you can't handle both turnovers and fouls. And then right now they're 4th in 3-point frequency and 9th in 3-point percentage. So, that's good, but not enough to overcome a 500 record or close to 500. In their wins, they're shooting 39.4%. In their losses, they're down to 34.7. So that's another big gap. Clearly, they're shooting themselves into the wins and they're shooting themselves out.
Do you think they are not getting up enough shots because they're turning the ball over so much?
I mean, if they're not going to listen to the coach, okay, which is sort of maybe what's going on here, right? Like, if the coach would grab him by the jersey and say, stop, take care of the ball. Like, these are careless turnovers. They're not even like, they're trying to make the right decision and the other team makes a good defensive play. Some of these are just careless, terrible. And so, there's got to be some methods there. But that said, when you got guys like Clay and Steph and Draymond, like, they've all been through it so often, so long. Like they've earned the right to be themselves and, probably not have to be coached as much because of that. So it's a real tough situation there. And yes, if they're not going to adjust and stop being so careless with the ball, fouls aside, let's pretend to put the fouls aside. Then the only solution Kerr is going to have is like, yeah, you got to start jacking up more threes. I don't know.
Yeah, no. So basically that's what I was thinking. Like you just got to get shots up quicker in the shot clock.
Yeah. Now they had that. Remember when Draymond got suspended last year in the playoffs, I think it was, and they were able to pull the game off maybe against the Kings. This is my addled brain pulling something out of there. They shot like 60 threes, something crazy. And you could tell right from the outset, they were like, we're going to have to take a lot of threes because we're really going to be hurt on the defensive end without Draymond. And they won that game. It almost has to be like that. And it was really obvious.
You got to take early threes. I mean, that will cause less turnovers. I'll tell you that. And you'll get more shots on target. Will they be the best shots? I mean, that's an whole other story, but you'll get more shots up.
Yeah. So right, that will lower the number of turnovers. But sometimes those bad threes are just turnovers anyway. Like this, you might as well chalk them up.
When you have Steph, and if Clay could ever get back to Clay, I mean, yeah, it's better than a turnover. That's for sure.
Clay shot awesome in that game, by the way, but he's the shell of himself. They probably So the other thing could be a lineup issue where they have to get the better lineups aligned better, and that means that Clay probably needs to come off the bench. They have to figure that, and they already had CP3 coming off the bench. They figured that was working a little bit better. Especially because CP3 was not shooting well at all. Let me go check. Is he still down there?
He's not a good. We talked about this all offseason. He's not a good fit for them. Just not.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, there's evidence, but yeah, he's still down at 31%. But remember, Chris Paul was like at like below 20 about 2 weeks ago. So he's tracking back up again when he's playing. Let's see what Clay was like. Because Clay was really bad too. And I'm sure that's gone up now. I think he's had a couple games since then where he shot a lot better. Yeah, he's at 35. All of a sudden, he's at 35%. He's back to almost where he would normally be. So, so that's all really good. So you know what? If that happens and Chris Paul can get healthy, then expect the Warriors to go on some sort of run. But Chris Paul will not be healthy. I think that's clear. He will not be able to stay himself in the lineup, keep himself in the lineup. And Clay is still defensively a complete shell of himself. He's just not very effective down there at all. So that might help them if they maybe play him different minutes with different players. All right. What do you say? You got a gun?
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. Anyway, great show tonight. A lot of people here. Really nice to have you guys here. And as always, we're here on Mondays around this time. So don't forget to set your calendars. I should be here next Monday. Are you going to be here next Monday?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And don't forget, if you could help us, it really would make a really meaningful contribution to getting us down there to Buenos Aires to be able to be, meet coach and combo play and represent the U.S. It'd be a nice thing to do down there. And then we'll also be bringing you some really cool content. We can make it all happen. So if you can, the link is in the description below, the GoFundMe. Check it out at least. Just look at it. Maybe we'll get some clicks to the site. Maybe we'll get some SEO. Who knows? And again, thanks, Combo, for coming on the show and breaking this all down for me.
It's always fun, Coach Nick, talking basketball with you.
Always fun. We'll continue to keep doing it. And I don't know. Don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Yes, sir.